Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us here on the SABC News Channel. So today is World Water Day, and the theme for this year is Glacier Preservation, in highlighting the vital role glaciers play in preserving freshwater supplies worldwide. So the main aim of World Water Day is to focus on the importance of accessibility to fresh water. However, many communities in South Africa say that government has failed to uphold their right to access to water. Let's chat a bit about this now and bring in Karen Bosman, who's a water and environmental governance specialist. Karen, thank you so much for joining us here on the SABC News Channel. I mean, water scarcity due to, for example, climate change is a major role player, I guess, in the lack of water. What can be done to ensure that something like Day Zero in South Africa is prevented?
Good morning, Griselda. Good morning, viewers. I think the first thing that we need to realize is that we are no longer talking about a situation of when climate change is happening. Climate change is happening, and we need to shift the conversation to how can we become more climate resilient. Now, if we think of, for example, the Day Zero severe drought that we had in 2017, 2018 in the city of Cape Town, that was simply as a result of the cold fronts from the South Pole not being strong enough to reach the mountains in the Cape where it brings rain, and so the dams ran dry. And therefore, if our dams run dry and we do not get enough rain to fill our freshwater supply sources, we need to start to look at alternative sources of water supply. Now, groundwater, one of the most neglected components of our freshwater resources, is actually quite important in that, and we should really focus our effort on protecting our groundwater resources, and also ensuring that we implement good governance measures when we do exploit groundwater resources for human supply. But if one think of, we were taught the hydrological cycle of evaporation from big bodies of water, condensation, precipitation, and then rainfall, and so we end up with water in our streams. We've changed that. We take water from rivers, use it, collect it, treat it at sewage works, discharge it back into a river where somebody else now needs to extract it, or where it goes back in the ocean and falls as rain on another continent. If we can implement a shortcut in this urban water cycle and treat our wastewater, our sewage effluent, to such a standard that it again is suitable for human consumption, then we have an alternative water resource. And we call that water reuse or water reclamation. And just this past week, there was an international conference for the first time in Africa on water reuse and reclamation. And I think that's one of the big alternative sources of water that we can exploit when we want to become climate resilient.
Yeah, and I mean, we are within, Human Rights Month, and water, of course, being a basic human right, a necessity. Why do we still talk about communities that still do not have access to clean drinking water? We still see that happening in our communities.
I think in the first, from 94 to 2005, before the pre-state capture era, the government has actually done a tremendous job, because remember in 94, more than 80% of our population did not have any access to water at all. And now we are, in the first 10 years, we've done a great job to eradicate that backlog. But since then, it's kind of slacked down and slowed down. And in some instances, the infrastructure to purify, treat, and provide the water does exist. Like, for example, in the city of Johannesburg, but the lack of maintenance on the infrastructure, the lack of proper planning for upgrading of infrastructure has led to what we refer to as a socioeconomic drought, where there's water everywhere, but nobody can drink it. So that is one part of the problem. And then the second part of the problem is the communities who completely lack access of water. Those communities need to be elevated and prioritized. If one talks about it is International Water Day, but also it was yesterday Human Rights Day. And the other basic human right is the right to decent sanitation. And there, I think our backlog is a little more significant than our backlog in terms of access to water. And sanitation goes to so many things. It goes to the right of dignity. It touches on gender-based violence, and so many other human rights-related aspects are directly linked to the right to basic sanitation.
Prof, thank you very much. Indeed, we do appreciate your time here on SABC News. Obviously, access to clean drinking water still remains a challenge in some communities. That was water and environmental governance specialist Karen Bosman talking to us about a critical aspect as we celebrate Human Rights Month. Obviously, still some challenges that need to be addressed. All right.